In the spirit of Halloween, paranormal or not, what is the scariest, creepiest or most unsettling experience of your life? I came back from vacation and was kinda groggy from all the stress. I come home and in the gloom, I see what looks like my ginger cat. I pick her up, but it doesn't feel like her at all, so I go OMG ooh, and toss her. It turns out it was her, she just got fat. My parents both left for work about an hour before my school bus came, so I'd watch cartoons for an hour. One morning, I distinctly heard the sound of the basement door opening. It had a distinctive noise because of how it was mounted in the doorway. So obviously someone had broken in a basement window and was coming upstairs. I yelled out, "Please don't hurt me. I'm going to walk out the front door right now. I haven't seen you, so please don't hurt me. I promise I'll say that I left for school and didn't see anything." I had my backpack sitting by me in the living room BTW. Standing at the end of the driveway, where my bus would pick me up, I could hear plates and glasses being smashed in the kitchen because the kitchen window would have been cracked open. But that afternoon when I came home, nothing was broken or stolen. There weren't any other incidents at that house either. I must have been at least 5 or 6, when my parents were taking my siblings and I out to trick or treat on Halloween. They were driving us somewhere when they pull into a weird open field in the middle of the night, get out of the car, pretending as if they saw something and left us alone. Moments later they return, beating all over the car screaming for help, making my siblings and I panic and cry. They then got back in and started laughing and apologizing, ensuring we were just fine. This happened 2 nights ago. My family and I are staying at a beach house right now over fall break. When we arrived, my parents let my little brother, his friend, and me pick out where we wanted to sleep. The two of them picked a room with twin beds, and I picked a small room with some interesting looking Gothic-y furniture. The first night, 2 nights ago, I couldn't sleep for whatever reason, and so I got up to get some water. Maybe 1:30 in the morning. When I got back to my room, which was right across from the bathroom, I could have sworn I saw a little man, with dirty brown skin, huge, bugged-out eyes, and tattered brown rags, maybe a foot tall, crouching next to my bed. He was staring at me. It only lasted a split second, and I might have imagined it, but it lasted long enough, and was detailed enough, that I'm not so sure. The next morning, my little brother and his friend switched to a different room. They said that they were creeped out by something, like there was something else in the room with them. We're heading home tomorrow. Back when I was about 13, I used to skate in a graveyard with my close friend behind our apartments because the cement was more smooth. The place was mostly empty, barely anybody ever came in. But one normal day we noticed a huge, angry, snarling pit bull dog running at us, full speed. The fact that this came out of nowhere is the scariest. So we run for our lives, not knowing what the animal wants. When we look behind us mid-run, the dog is nowhere to be seen or heard. We're in this moment attempting to reassure each other that this in fact happened, but we never saw what happened to this dog in a huge semi-open, quiet space. Was pretty spooky. I was a vehicle mechanic in the Army Reserves when I was younger. On one overnight drill we drove a convoy of trucks from Baltimore to Fort AP Hill, Virginia on the old state highways. Things started out pretty normally, but as we were driving the convoy gradually starts slowing down, and after a while the whole line of trucks has slowed to a crawl. We pulled off the road and the guy in the lead truck tells us his 5-ton won't accelerate at all. We switched trucks and sure enough, it won't go above 5 miles per hour. I dropped the truck out of the convoy and my motor sergeant stayed with me in a pickup truck. About a half hour later we happen across an old gas station and decide that we are not going anywhere fast, so we will park the truck there. I was to remain with the truck until they could come back later and transfer everything to another one. So off drives my motor sergeant and I am out in the middle of southern bumfuck Maryland with nobody around. It starts getting dark and I see the lights are on and the restaurant is open at the gas station and I am hungry as hell, so in I go. I sit down in a booth by the window where I can keep an eye on the truck, and a lady comes and asks me what I want to eat. I ask if I can have a menu, and she says she doesn't have one, but they have fried chicken and mashed potatoes, and that sounded pretty good to me, so I order it. I was starving hungry, and it was the best damn fried chicken I have ever eaten. I finish, get the bill, leave my money on the table, and walked back out to the truck. I stayed awake for a while, but eventually I lay down across the seat and slept a few hours. Now about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, another truck shows up with a bunch of guys, and we start transferring gear to the other 5-ton. One of the guys says, "You must be starving," and I say, "No, I ate at the restaurant." Well, this guy gives me the strangest look and says, "You didn't eat at that restaurant. Look at it." Well, it's the middle of the night and I can't see the building that well, and I just told him he was crazy and we leave. I slept a couple hours, and then we had to go back in the morning to deal with this broke down truck, and that's when I had a WTF moment. All the windows to this station are boarded up, and the place looks like it had been abandoned for 20 years. At this point I am seriously weirded out, so I go over and peek through the glass on the door, which was uncovered. My fucking money was still sitting on the table. I couldn't get away from that place fast enough. My stepmom has this weird story about how when she was a kid she would always complain to her parents about a man digging outside her window. A few years ago a friend bought a new house and moved into it. I asked him how the move was going and how he likes the house. He said he loved it, but strangely his daughter keeps saying that there is somebody digging outside her window at night. I thought that was funny, so I told my stepmom. Turns out my friend bought and moved into my stepmom's childhood home, and his daughter was living in my stepmom's old bedroom. So, same house, same bedroom, same weird phenomenon of a little girl complaining about a man digging outside the window at night, although the stories are separated by decades. I'm late to the party, but this happened just a few months ago. It was probably 3 a.m. I was standing in the kitchen drinking a glass of water. My parents' room is in a hall connected to the kitchen. As I'm standing in the dark drinking my water, I hear my mom whisper my name from her bedroom. This is undoubtedly my mom's voice. I give a simple "Yeah, mum." In reply, I get no reply. I just assume she heard me and was checking everything was alright. So I head off to bed. The next morning, I mention it to my mom. I asked, "Did you need something last night when you called me?" She said she had no idea what I was talking about. "You called me from your room." "That's impossible," she said. "I fell asleep in the living room." Not the freakiest thing ever, but it was an experience. We had a derelict hospital in our village. It used to be a private hospital, so it was apparently quite swish when it was open. It was shut down in the 70s and had been left to decay. When I was a kid I would hear stories from older kids who had gone in. They would say they had seen ghost nurses and heard phantom screams. You could see the hospital from my bedroom window, and I convinced myself I saw things in the windows from time to time. When I was about 13, me and some friends finally went in and had a snoop around. It was on Halloween and everyone was amped before we went in, so as you can imagine it got quite scary in there. We hadn't seen anything, but we ended up running away from nothing and running right into the morgue. It was horrible, and then one of my friends found a Ouija board on the floor, and at that moment all the lights in the place came on. We all stood frozen and terrified until my friend just ran and we followed. We couldn't find the exit as we had got lost running from nothing. We finally got to an area we recognized and the lights went out. People cried, screamed and panicked. Eventually I smashed a window with a very old fire extinguisher and we climbed out. It was terrifying, and even now I shiver when I think about that moment the lights came on. Quite counterintuitive really. About 10 years later we were sat in the local pub talking about it, and old Sam, who was a local handyman, overheard us and told us that he had been employed there for years as a security guard and would regularly go in on Halloween because it was the prime time for intruders and vandals. He said that one thing he would do is turn the lights on and it would flush people out, and that the chances are he was looking for us while we were running round and shitting ourselves. 18 years old, home alone, parents are out of town so alone for a couple weeks. Live in the country-ish, closest houses are at least 100 yards on either side. Late at night, watching TV in my room when I hear glass breaking somewhere. Look up and see both the dog and cat sitting in my room, both of them perked their ears up and looking towards my door. Oh shit. It's not one of them knocking stuff over, and it's not my imagination. I pick up phone, had my own line in my room, and call 911, tell them I think somebody broke one of my windows. They tell me they will send somebody by, I hang up. Get a gun and start very slowly creeping through house. Can't hear a thing but the sound of my heart pounding. I'm freaking out because the house plan is kind of a circle, kitchen to entryway to living room to hallway to kitchen again. So as I am creeping down the hall I am constantly looking behind me to make sure the intruder is not sneaking up on me. I finally make it to the kitchen, and there on the floor is the glass cover for the ceiling light fixture. It had fallen to the floor all by itself. It's one of those where you tighten the screw enough to go under the lip in the glass. I had just changed the light bulb that day. So I called 911 back and told them false alarm. Police came anyways just to double check and offered to search the house, which I thought was pretty awesome of them. Since I was still rattled and still had a couple more weeks until parents got back in town, I hooked up some poor man's alarms on all the exterior doors by hanging some empty cans on a thread tacked in front of the door. That was about 10 minutes of the most frightened and freaked out I have ever been. In hindsight, I was doubly stupid. First of all, obviously I should have just waited for the police to arrive. Second, I should have paid more attention to the dog. If there had been somebody in the house, she would have flipped her shit. Instead she just quietly followed me as I crept through the house, probably thinking the whole time what the hell is he doing?